Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name's Simon, and we are the Wells of Wall Street. Guys, hopefully the audio is okay. I'm actually lounging on the sofa today, dislocated ankle last night in football, trying to rest, trying to work, now doing some videos. Let's go. VRA is on our radar tonight, so that's Veracity. Guys, no kind of project narratives today. I think we cover this quite often anyway. I just wanted to bring some thoughts around the chart movements of the last few days, of course, and in particular, actually, to be fair, arguably the last month or so. As you see on the screen here, we kind of depicted this in the last video. Of course, we've had a few incidences a few days back with the likes of short and long leverages going wrong. We've had the multitude of crypto FUD around the world, which is the usual traditional nonsense that occurs when people want to try and finalize a correction a bit quicker, in my opinion. So that all has accumulated, many variables in place for that. Nothing to do with Veracity as a project. I made that quite clear in all our videos we do on any of our assets that we cover. Because no matter what the price is, the project is still there. It's still going to be developed. It's still going to continue through the great periods of time that we have in our futures. So for me, I'm not concerned. Obviously, from an investor's perspective, of course, you want to see continuous growth, but that's not how the world works. And that's certainly not how the space of crypto works either. However, what I will say is there are opportunities on both ends of the spectrum, of course, on the way up in terms of profit taking and in suitable fashions, as well as the same principles on the way down as well. So let's just recap quickly here. Look at this top spot from this lower region. I'm not considering the ones from down here in July. I'm just focusing purely on the short one. I mean, we can do it from lower. It makes it even look even better. But my point being is that clearly there were a multitude of opportunities along this path between the sort of beginning of October to the end of October before we had the come down effect. Why did this kind of thing happen? Well, what obviously one of the main reasons we should talk about a lot on this channel is things like support mechanisms, resistance. Now, it can't keep going on forever. And of course, what happens then, eventually the volumes fade off. You get sort of a bout of people that are perhaps bored and don't like to hang around and they sell off. Some people sell off along the way because they've maybe missed certain points. But what's always clear and apparent, and I make this point on a number of crypto asset charts, is to analyze things from further back. And we've always picked out our buy areas, not necessarily based on movements in terms of moving averages and things like that, but also historic data on the charts. And we always pick points about like previous resistance areas, which are clearly going to be something that if we have broken those areas, you're in a price discovery mode. And at some point, we've got to come down to these areas again to essentially, what would be the word, like confirm and validate where we are in the real price, what I call about the real price of a project. Okay. So it's like when something goes from like $1 to $300 within a short space of time, the actual price, yes, it's theoretically true as of the time at that top point, but realistically, the actual valued perspective of the project is perhaps not $300. It should be a lot lower than that, because you do need the gradual growth patterns, of course. And there's, like we say, there's a multitude of variables and this, that, and the other in charts in general. So Veracity right here, right now, has very much touched upon some key resistance and support areas on this way down. We've managed to personally capture some really good points. One of our lowest spectrums was down here. One of our learnings was that perhaps we should have had an even lower one around these sort of regions. And it was quite clear, certainly in the last few days, whether it was boosted with the variables that we've mentioned earlier in the video or not. It was always going to come down to these probable areas anyway at some point, based on our theory and thought process, like everyone or most traders do, is the original previous touch points. So what we're kind of doing right now is defining where is our new support line for Veracity. And you can't just pinpoint that just because we've touched down one or two times. It's sometimes a fluctuation of rises and then back down here again. It could be in a month's time, 2 months' time. It could be any time. But the other side of the coin, of course, is we do reach a new support mechanism, and this is simply it until we go back into a winter market. So what have I been doing the last few days? Well, I've been taking advantage on the way down for sure. With some veracity, I sold up in these regions. I didn't sell it right at the top. I'll admit it was around about this area. I pretty much liked the positions of coming down every couple of cents and taking advantage of those. In the last couple of days, and this is a point I want to make to everyone really, from learnings and general perhaps human psychology, if you like. We've had this big dip and it starts rising up again. You get a big green candle. Everyone gets really excited and they start jumping in again. And then they get annoyed and disappointed when it drops again. Why is this happening? Because, of course, you've got people with volume coming in and then you've got people that are taking the profit. There's two reasons for that. One, there's the general profit taking aspect. But two, out there's people that are going to realize that there's still no confidence properly in this move that we own currently. So they're kind of safeguarding themselves really, in the sense that if you're doing like dollar cost averaging on the way up and down, you can kind of avoid a lot of risk really. I mean, everyone's got their different strategies. It's working for me personally. I literally sold down at this 3.6 or 3.7 cent mark, and I'm not even joking. I sold it at 4.7, just because in my mind it was 1 cent. I think it actually went to 48. 48.7. I sold mine back at 4.7 from profits that I took on these on the upside. I then bought back in on the drop yesterday when it came back down to 3.7. So that in my mind was a 1 cent drop. It was enough for me to take the profits out of what I've accumulated down here. So I purchased on these drops here. I've sold some out here, but not the full amount that I purchased, just the profits that I took. And I used those profits to buy back in at 3.7 because in my mind, this isn't confident enough in my mind in the chart to suggest that we're fully out of this correctional period. We've got a few other indicators here that we look at, as you may have seen in some previous videos. I added some extra chart elements on here. Forgive me, that's decided to disappear. There we go. So what we've got here is my now 14, 28 day and also the 90 day. Okay, so for some bizarre reason, I don't know what's going on here. It's decided to move itself about. Maybe that's why. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, so this green suggesting the 14 day, which is one I use consistently in all my charts, just from a 2-week perspective to see are we in good regions. For this instance, on the lower period, for me, 29 is extremely low. I usually look at around the 40 mark as my first intake or position of buying in. And then I do some incremental ones, maybe like 35, 32. And it's not massively rare, but it is not as likely to happen as it usually does to go below that 30 mark. And obviously it did, and I had no choice but to get involved in that. And then we obviously had the uptake. It wasn't massive, it was up to 40, but it was enough for me to sort of say, I've made a quick small gain there. And I've continued obviously holding the rest that I bought at this area. I'm waiting really till it comes back to like maybe 80, the 70 and 80 mark on the RSI and 14. But on the extended ones here of the 28 and the 90 as well, it looks like similarly like repeated patterns, but they all kind of tell their own story. And in my opinion, more of a confirmation of exact positioning of where we are at these current stages. So it means that in about a month's time, because arguably, let's say this low point, let's use this as a reference. So obviously 29 on the 14 day. So I've got a room for the next couple of weeks or so to think, actually, where's the movement? Can I make profits in that short period of time? And then on the 28 day one, from a monthly perspective, I can go, right, I've dropped down to my significant levels around the 40, and I'm not going to be probably selling those elements off that I purchased till that gets to around maybe the 70 and beyond mark. And once it gets to 70, that's my first selling point. And then I'll take some incremental areas after that as well, see how it goes. That's how I kind of do it. But for me and this topic about veracity right now, emphasizing that the project is phenomenal. The price is the price. It doesn't mean the project is terrible. It doesn't mean this stopped working. It's just the investment perspective. And of course, we have variables for the uptake of why, good news comes in, the price jumps up. Equally, on the way down, you've got to anticipate people's mindset, boredom, or worry or uncertainty, especially when FUD comes in. But for Veracity's perspective here, what I'm liking right now is we've had the big sell-off wave. We had this miniature one, as we've mentioned, because of the variables that kicked in. It's really sort of justifying, if you like, or confirming the full dip tail off, if you like. So I feel like over the next few days, we're going to see this histogram sort of leveling off like we've done here. I do think it will take maybe until next week to do that. And then we might start seeing a bit of a crossover. This is MACD at the moment, as you can see, this blue and red here, indicating the 1226 on the moving averages here. Obviously, that gap has widened quite a bit, but I'm anticipating that in a small period of time will narrow and create the switch over pattern that we will want to see in the chart. So what I see in the chart now moving into maybe at the end of this week and next week is us potentially coming to test these kind of areas again around 3.4, arguably potentially just under that 3 cent mark again, which would make sense to get triple confirmations of those before we can go, right, we've got a foundation in place now for Veracity to be taken up a notch. Then we formulate this nice sort of trend pattern and be able to take ourselves in that nice, what you usually see is kind of like a U shape really, or sometimes a staggered like approach here on a V. So that's the kind of pattern I'm trying to see in the next few days or into next week to take us back up to the other levels. And there's no doubt in my mind we will see resistance, probably, and I would not be surprised, and we've already actually seen some of this in the last couple of days to prove this, is in our previous buy areas on the way down. We are no doubt going to see resistance at these areas as well because of the historic data. And of course, once we hit these higher regions again, where we were before, around that sort of 8.9 cents mark, that's where I think we're going to see again some resistance. But I think we're probably about a month away from that, maybe. It depends on how much confidence creeps back in. We're going into a Christmas period as well. You've got to think about people's monetary situations, obviously spending at Christmas and whatnot. Are they going to be ploughing as much as they would into crypto as they would in other periods? Possibly not. So we've got to be patient. We're down on the week, we're down on the month, understandably. That's taken us from the correctional period here. It's formulated a nice shape. I think we're hitting some good resistance at these kind of levels around 3 cents. And if we can continue to keep above that 3 cent level, which we have done quite comfortably so far in the last couple of days, we've reverted already straight to 4 cents. That doesn't mean it's over, guys. That's what I'm trying to say. But if we can support this 4 cent mark over the next few days and into next week, this gives us humongous traction. One final point before I wrap this video up is obviously these touchdowns towards the 3 cent level were very swift, and on both occasions brought it back up. So there's clearly like some magnetism here around this 4 cent mark, as if we really want to keep it afloat up this region. And that would be fantastic to see, because that puts us in a great position to push us really hard over the coming months into the bull market and onto new heights. I'm still sticking with my 21 cent price prediction for the end of the bull run. Let us know what yours are in the comments below, but I certainly feel that's achievable in the next few months coming, and especially if the Veracity roadmap continues to come into fruition, as well as other things in the world as well. But obviously keep an eye on news around everywhere, because anything can happen in this space. Stocks, shares, whatever, are always affected by so many variables. Don't just focus on the project itself. Look through the eyes of the recipient, look through the eyes of the world, and make judgments through that also. Guys, hopefully this has been helpful. This is where I think Veracity is going to be doing in the next few days and the next week. Let us know what you think about that in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next Veracity video. Take care, and bye-bye.